Hey friends, welcome to if oh my gosh, here we go. Already built up with the first one. Rewind. Blah, 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 blah. Hey friends, welcome to the Inside Approach, where we're going to be discussing the ABCs and becoming more. Today we're going to be talking about courage for the letter C, and I'm really excited for our guest speaker on tonight because if I think about courage, this individual came to mind right away. And Matt has demonstrated in just the short amount of time that I've known him multiple times of courage. And so I'm excited to learn from him as well as each of you be able to learn from him and how he's been able to demonstrate courage throughout his life. But to give you a little bit of background about Matt Anders, is he was born and raised in Santa Cruz, California. He grew up as a dancer and did multiple different styles. He did a semester of college and decided it wasn't for him, so dropped out. He started his first business as an entrepreneur at the age of 22. Succeeded in that for 8 years, and then it crashed with the economy. A few years later, found himself filing bankruptcy at the age of 27. He started a second business in 2010, kept that going for 9 years before it failed, and left his life in shambles. In 2019, he began his third business, built to a $3 million empire in just 11 months. This guy is someone who has been through it all: an alcoholic mother, physically beaten and abused as a child, sexually abused from a teacher, and plenty of failures and successes in business. Yet one common strand that threads through each season and each phase of life for Matthew is the theme of courage to take the next step. Matthew, I'm really honored that you would be on our podcast today, being able to talk about the subject of courage. We've only known each other for just a short 3 years. And I mean, we have formed this brotherhood. I mean, you have been a mentor, you've been a leader of mine, but you've also been a dear friend. So this is an honor to have you on today.
Yeah,
So I'm really grateful for it. So welcome.
glad to be here. Thanks.
Is there
Yeah.
anything else you want to add to that I left out, or anything about you?
No. No, I say let's dive in.
Let's dive in. Cool. Well, now you're in Arizona as well. Here we are in Boise, Arizona. So you're enjoying warmer weather than me, but good times, good times. I see your tropical plant back there, and I'm jealous because those
Mm.
don't grow in Boise. But
Yeah.
cool. So, I mean, I have a few questions here. I mean, we can just take as long as we want on each of these questions. The first one I want to talk about is for us and for our listeners. Is do you believe that courage is a learned trait or something innate?
Hmm. A learned trait versus something you're born with. I think that it's a combination of the two. I think that early on, everyone has an opportunity to utilize courage, and whether you choose to or not dictates whether it's innate to you moving forward. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
So you might have somebody that's, let's just use a great example you've heard a million times. You have a set of twins growing up in the same situation, same hardships, blah, 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 blah. But one responds completely differently than the other. Why? Well, there's something innate in them that made them feel more comfortable being bold or more comfortable receding in that moment. Uh, and so I would imagine whatever that thing is plays a big enough role to where they will continue that pattern going forward. But I also feel like, let's say it's twin B who gets whatever the situation is, they recede. At some point, they get tired of being a victim or being weak or whatever, and they make the decision to be like, no, I'm standing up and I'm doing something different with my life. Then it can be something that's learned over time based on the level of disgust they have with how they were, or maybe how they are innately, or something like that.
No, I like that. I like
Both.
that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
think I think it's both.
Okay, no, I can see that. I mean, I think each of us are, I mean, you and I are believers in God. I think each of us are born with characteristics that are, each of us have a variation of strength and weaknesses. That's what makes us our human and helps us to explore life. So I can totally see that. I mean, there's different responses that each one of us are going to have, or each of us are going to respond differently to circumstances. I mean, being punished as a child, one can receive punishment a certain way and the other one can receive punishment a certain way. So certain things can suppress certain traits and certain attributes. So I do agree with what you're saying there. As far as, I mean, kind of your background, where would you say where did you find your courage? Do you think it was something that you just naturally had from a young age, or do you think it's something that you had to grow into in a later age in life, or where do you think your courage came from?
I That's where I think in my unique situation, it's a learned thing in the sense that I'm automatically drawn back to this one time when I was probably about 4 or 5 years old, and my real mom, my biological mom, lived on an army base in California. And at that time, as a kid, I didn't know, but at the time, she had an alcoholic drinking problem. And my half brother, who was about a year and a half older than me, so maybe 5.5, and then my other half brother, who's about 6 years older than me, who's probably about, I don't know, 10, uh, 10 and a half, somewhere in there. The three of us were out playing one day. We spent the weekend at her at her on army base where she was staying with the boyfriend she was dating. And we go to walk into the house and the door's locked and the TV's all the way up, and we hear our mom screaming and throwing things and freaking out. And we're like banging on the door and banging on the door, and that goes on for like 30, 40 minutes. And she stops screaming. We're like, what the heck? What the heck? We didn't know at the time that she was blind, drunk, had passed out, blacked out, and was just having rage. And her boyfriend was working overnight on base somewhere else. And so my two little brothers were like, we don't have anywhere to go. We're locked out of the house. They knew that my mom was completely blind drunk. They knew her history. I wasn't always around for that, to experience all that. And so for me, I didn't know. And it was getting dark out. So we're like, what do we do? And so they decided that it was the smartest thing is to find a place to sleep for the night. So we went around to the back of the house and slept in the neighbor's dog house. So they had a dog house in their backyard. And the three of us just like crawled in this dog house, which not much bigger than maybe your office desk. And we slept there for the night. And the next morning, Frank, her boyfriend, comes and gets us out and takes us to breakfast. And I don't ever remember saying goodbye to my mom that day. I just remember going back to my dad's house and not seeing her for a good couple months. And why I bring this up? Because in my head, I'm like, they knew what to do. I learned not to be scared because of what they did. So I mimicked that. That sense of independence kind of sat with me. I remember that like it was night, like it was yesterday. It's a very black and white image in my head of that moment. And I think a lot of lessons are learned in that moment of like, become self-reliant, have courage in the face of fear. You're going to be scared, but still make a decision. All of the things that courage plays into. And so I think in my experience, it's just having those moments where I've seen somebody else do something, or I've heard somebody else say something, or seen somebody else act out. And because of that, I've been able to emulate it, and then I just keep it going, right? And so I think in my situation, it's probably learned. I'm also a very independent person, very introverted type of individual. So I could probably pick up on that and then run with it a little bit easier than maybe if I wasn't an introvert. So I think it's a both. You have some of what God gave you play into it, but also the people around you can be an example for what you want to do or how you want to respond to that situation or whatever.
No, I like that. I like that. And that's a great story. I mean, you said half brothers, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Half brothers. Have those, I mean, were they pretty big examples in your life? I mean, no? Okay.
No, good example of the twin thing. When my mom and dad divorced, I went with my dad. One of my brothers went with my mom, and one of my other brothers went with their dad. Same mom, different dad. And then they both have had alcoholism problems. They both had anger problems, relationship problems, finances, everything you would expect to come from a broken home. Those, those kids end up being that way. My brothers end up being that way still to this day. Yet I was removed enough from it and could see it from a bigger picture. Like that's how they are, and this is how they grew up. I grew up a little bit different with my dad and my stepmom, so therefore I'm choosing not to follow what they're doing. And I think that even though they weren't really like shining examples or anything, they were still. I believe that people can be an example or a warning for you,
Sure.
or for others. You either are going to be an example for someone or a warning for someone. And I feel like early on, they were a great example of how to overcome the craziness that they were being um, exposed to, and how they had to use a lot of courage in those moments. But then they didn't get the coaching or the training or the whatever they needed to take it to a new level to help themselves. And I did, and I chose that route. So,
Sure.
yeah.
No, that's kind of where I was going. I mean, is they were examples to you at the time. Obviously, we can drift different ways throughout the experiences we have, and we choose our path based on the people that we follow the example of the most. So in that moment that you were just sharing that story, I mean, they were some examples for you. You kind of looked up to them for some mentorship, some support, because you were too little to really know what to do at that given moment. And so that's really neat that, just so I guess the lesson there is obviously is that we can, if we feel like we're lacking courage, we can always look up and find people in our lives that can help support courage. So we don't just have to sit in a room and go, I need courage, I need courage, where do I find courage? We can actually look to someone, maybe somebody older or somebody that we associate with, to look for courage in those given moments, of fear, of uncertainty. And that's really neat that you were able to pull that from them. Unfortunately, that they did choose other paths, but at the same time, when you needed it the most, they were there for you in that example. So I like that a lot. So it took you to a higher level. You're a nice, I like to say a little, if you want to go into a higher level, you got to overcome certain devils. So you had a little devil of fear right there that you had to overcome. But you found some assistance and some guidance and a lesson to be learned in that example there to help boost your confidence or your courage just a little bit more. So I like that.
I'm writing that down. You have to overcome. I love it.
By
Thank
the
you.
way, nice shirt. We got our shirts, matching shirts here, right? Talking about courage today, the inside approach here. Shirts are going to be offered, available on this podcast too, if you want to tap into those shirts. But good times, good times. Well, I do really appreciate what you're saying with that, Matt. As far as just knowing that we do have that God-given gift as well of courage. Because again, God is a God of love and a sound mind, and He wants us to grow into this thing. What about on a spiritual level? Do you mind talking a little bit more about that at all?
Yeah, pertaining to.
The manifestation of God given to us to make us more courageous.
Well, I think. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different types of people listening to this, and different backgrounds and different levels of belief.
Sure.
Uh, I think the the best way I can kind of explain it is, and a friend said this to me the other day, actually. Trying to think of the actual exact words. Anything worthwhile uh, that comes from God is going to require a village or something like that. It was like anything that is valuable coming from God, that you want to become or overcome or go through or whatever, is going to require a village. And as I thought about that, having been somebody that's so independent in my whole life, and really do everything in my power to eliminate as many people that I have to rely on as possible, and just be like, I'm strong enough. I could pull myself through. I am the solution to the problem. I think it's important to recognize that, like, the strength of the human spirit, it obviously comes from one source. Uh, and a lot of times I think the ego gets in the way and makes us feel like we are that source, um, versus it's this infinite power. It's this nonstop never-ending love that you can tap into. But because we think I have to overcome this, or I'm strong enough, or I'm not strong enough, I'm depressed, and blah 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 blah, or poor me, help me, I can't get out of this depression. I'm in chains because of my addiction or whatever. We forget that everything and anything is possible as long as you're tapping into that source. And so, yeah, it's a heavy question, because especially with these, this last 18 months of my life where I've gone like this in my belief over and over. With I'm facing, and right now I'm working through a sexual abuse trial, because I finally got enough courage to speak out and actually go to the police about the teacher that molested me for about 4 months as a kid. I finally spoke out about it, and I got really strong for about 3 or 4 months, and then my ego stepped in and self-protection stepped in, and I stopped going to church. I stopped praying, and I pulled back, and then got really depressed for 3 or 4 months, and just really life felt like it was falling apart all through the holidays. And then I decided to go back to church, and not saying church is the answer, but tapping into a relationship with God
Yes.
is, I think, right? Because again, church isn't going to church doesn't mean you're in relationship with God. Church is just the people that go to a place to celebrate God. But being in that environment again, and in a place where I see examples of other people struggling through things, but then putting their faith in God and that kind of thing, helped me go, why do I keep pulling myself out of relationship with God when I know that's what I need? I've done it about 5 times in the last 18 months where I pull myself away from what I know I need, a relationship with God and praying and all that. And then I put myself back randomly. I'm like, feel called to go back to church, or feel called I need to pray today, or sit and have a conversation. And so I do that, and I'm like, why did I stop this every time? And you feel this sense of strength, and like you feel this sense of, for me, it's more a sense of encouragement. It's not a sense of invincibility, but just encouragement that, like, hey, look, if you're on the right path, it's going to feel this way, but have your back, kind of a feeling. Anyway, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think it was great. I mean, that was a lot. I mean, there was a lot in there. There's so many things that we can pull from that. So I appreciate that. So, I mean, hopefully our listeners are like, oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. I can take that. I can take that. Because there's a lot of nuggets in there, listeners. I think, again, talking about the having people, associations, I remember with my upbringing through church, it talked about that we're all kind of like a coal or an ember in a fire,
Mhm.
and you can separate that ember from the fire, and what happens? It just kind of goes out, right?
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
as soon as you kind of bring that back in, it ignites again. But all of those embers together make a blazing fire. And so that blazing fire of courage, of faith, of inspiration, of direction, was really neat. And then, God is consistent. It's us that steps away from Him, right? And then all of a sudden we got to, okay, and we do that. I mean, I've known you during this course of things that you've been going through, and my story, my current situation. I mean, my faith has been challenged tremendously, and my courage has been just been crushed, and it's really tough. And so it's really important to be able to find those people, whether it's in a religion or your associations, your family, or your friends, your business partners, whatever it might be, is to tap into those and bring your little ember. It might be this little spark, but bring that ember to that fire, their fire, and help that blazing, or that fire blaze a little bit more inside of you. So I like that.
It's like when you, I don't know if you've ever done this, uh, but if you have a candle that's burning, um, I like my little visual. If you have your
Candle.
little candle, it's fake.
Oh.
But you get the point. So you have your candle and it's lit, right?
Okay.
Have you ever done this where you go and you take a lighter and just hold it to the up here.
Mhm.
So smoke's going. And
Right.
you light right there, you can see the flame travel down the smoke and go and relight the candle.
Right.
That's literally what it's like to step away
Sure.
from being in relationship with God. And then you feel called back. So you go a little bit and it's like, that's how I view it. I just had that happen the other day at church and was like, oh, why did I step away again? Why did I forget about this? How do I keep going through this cycle? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of us have all been through that cycle. I mean, just in life, whether it be with God or just with our courage, all of us have gone through that cycle. Why do we step away from the courageous version part of ourselves? Is just I think you nailed it. You let our ego get in the way. Ego is a huge downfall to a lot of us, and so just keeping ourselves humble, which we'll talk about when we get to letter H. Just to be able to put us in a position where we aren't strong by ourselves, but we can have the courage to be stronger, and we just need the village in order to keep us surviving. And if we don't have that village, okay, let's answer that. What if you don't have that village? Okay, you talked about your half brothers. I mean, they stepped away, right? If we don't have that village, what are some resources that we can connect ourselves to in order to get, if we don't, say we don't believe in God, that's fine. What kind of resources can we tap into to help our courage? Who can we tap into?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's more similarities between people than there are differences, yet we assume there's more differences than there are similarities. And 9 times out of 10, if you meet somebody and you're like, I really don't like that person, it's because they're more of a very clear, concise reflection of who you actually are in this moment than
And the
they're,
things you don't know about yourself.
yes. Those are the people that you want to kind of tap into because they're at the same place that you are. And that's why you're picking up on the fact that you're like, no, I'm not really sure I'm a big fan of that. They irritate me, or the way they respond to people really just doesn't sit well with me, that kind of thing. Those are the people I would say, like, get in relationship with, ask them questions, figure out what their story is, because as soon as they start to share their story, we have to remember conversation leads to relationship. And so if you feel like you're alone, you feel like you don't have a lot of people in your support circle, that's your choice. And you can choose to remain that way, or you can choose to make a change. And the fastest way to make a change is get in relationship with new people that you don't know. And usually it should be the people that you naturally are a little bit like about, because they actually end up usually becoming the ones that you're similar enough to, but challenge you enough that they can help you get to a next level. They can help you have more strength, more courage, more belief, all of those things. So I'd say those people, like those people.
Okay. Well, it's kind of interesting is like you're saying this, and my brain is like, if you and I met on the streets without kind of our common interest and mutual friends, I would talk to you. There wasn't enough for me. There was enough of me in you to make me go, I don't know about Matt. I don't know about that guy. There's things that just wasn't like totally synergetic. It's just like total brotherhood, that we just bonded right away. There were some things that I'm like, I don't know. But yet through our conversations throughout the years, I mean, dude, you've become a brother from another mother. It's just been fantastic to have that relationship because I now know more of your story, more of my story, and we have been able to come to that. And so now it's like I look up to you as an example of courage, and as a leader, as a mentor. And I want to emulate a lot of the strengths that you have. And so it's pretty awesome, like you said, just to make that connection through conversation. So I like that connection through conversation. Write that one down, folks. Connection through conversation. I didn't bring my paper, so I apologize. I need to write that down. Matt will share his notes with me.
I'm just telling all the listeners, he goes, we're just going to fly and answer these questions and kind of work through it. And then he goes, so there's not going to be a lot of time for you to take notes. I'm not going to really be saying a lot that there's going to be noteworthy. And I told him, I said, isn't it true though, that when we're like trying to be wise and educate people and help others, we're really mostly just talking to what we need ourselves.
Sure.
And so that's why I have my little notes. Like,
good.
well, I'm going to say stuff that I know I'm going to need to be implementing in my own life. So I'm going to want to write it down. I just think it's funny.
No, that's good. No, no, totally. I'm laughing at myself right now because yeah, right now it's like, okay, moving forward, next podcast, I am taking notes. I'm gonna have that notepad right here in front of me so I can make sure that I'm taking these nuggets. Because again, I mean, here's the thing too, is I believe that we are vessels, for deity, that he will give us the words, to say, depending on what the person we're talking to at the given moment. And there's a lot of times I've experienced this. I'm like, where did that come from? Right? It's like blah 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 blue. Whoa, what? And I believe that this is a divine intervention, but at the same time, it's connection. Whether it's divine or whatever you want to believe, it's that connection. And when two people come together, and have like minds and have good conversations, things are shared. Inspiration is given, courage is uplifted, and we motivate each other. So I love it. That's fantastic. Anything more on that? Awesome. So the other one I want to do is the next question is, how do you overcome fear when striving for something that requires courage? I think we answered a lot, but is there anything else that pops in your head? Because I really like that question, but I want to see if you're that turn, takes you a different direction than what we've already been sharing.
Yeah. How do you overcome fear when you're chasing something that requires courage? I mean, I'll give you a good example of, it takes a village. I think that's the answer. But so yesterday, uh, I went to a counseling session for the first. I haven't gone to counseling or therapy or whatever like that in since I think October. Uh, and so I had a couples therapy session, um, not because the house is burning down, but because there's not even a foundation built, and we want to make sure that that foundation is unreal, so that the house being built is transformational, right? Uh, and the idea of going to this couples therapy came up in um, our nightly routine. We sit in the room, we turn off our phones 45 minutes before bed, plug them in, whatever, they're done. Then we do about 35 minutes of yoga, stretches, like meditating. We picture light coming down from God through us. We picture light coming up from the ground into us. We picture those passing through, and it's all one energy. And then get in bed, hold hands, and pray out loud to God, fears and gratitude and all the things. And it came up a couple of weeks ago, and in the prayer was something along the lines of like, we want this relationship to grow and become something meaningful for you, for God, obviously, to do things through us that are going to better the world and better people's lives, and just give us a way to help us make that go through. And then the next day, somebody said, "You know what? You guys should go to couples therapy." And in my head, I'm like, "That's a great idea. Like, why wait till the house is burning down to go to therapy? Why not build the house with therapy the whole time?" Okay, cool, love it. So we go and book an appointment. We go walk into the building, and I'm shaking. Yes, this was yesterday, at about an hour ago yesterday. And I'm sitting there in the waiting room, like just like overwhelmed with anxiety and just feeling so much angst of like, oh my God, I'm going into therapy again. Like I'm freaking out. Like I have to talk to somebody I don't know. It's almost $300 for 50 minutes. Like this seems like a waste. Why are we doing this if there's not issues in the relationship yet? It's only a 2-month long relationship so far. Like, oh my God. And I'm shaking, physically shaking, and like having to go, calming myself down for like 10 minutes before we got there early. And as we're walking, the lady comes out, the therapist comes out. Okay, come on back, Matthew. Come on back. So we're walking back into the room, down the hall, whatever. And I'm first. There's the lady, me, and then my other half. And as we're walking back, I feel a hand on my shoulder. Okay, I felt it calm me down, but I'm like, okay, there's a hand on my shoulder. Obviously, it's clear that I'm very anxious and uncomfortable right now. Going back to an hour or two after therapy, I asked, "Why did you put your hand on me?" The response was, "Because it was very clear that you needed some courage in that moment."
Mm.
And almost to a T. And I was like, I'm going to
Wow.
say that on the podcast tomorrow, because I'm actually talking about a podcast tomorrow about courage. But that's the thing, is that, again, anything worthwhile, especially if it's something that you feel called to do, spiritually, emotionally, through the universe, through God, whatever you want to call it, um, it's gonna take a village. So I don't think I could have overcome all of that, all that stuff I was feeling, all the shakiness and the nervousness and all the uncomfort and all of that. I don't think I could have been like, okay, I'm gonna be like, I wouldn't have pulled myself together.
Mm,
I would have passed it at some point. That doesn't mean I overcame it. Um, and uh, but that hand on my shoulder gave me a chance to realize, like, okay, like, yes, you can be afraid, but here, have some lie courage, because uh, we'll get through this and you'll be okay. So that's kind of my answer indirectly. Is like, I don't know that you come overcome fear necessarily. I think we, and
sure.
utilizing that, because even if it is just you fighting the battle, it's still not just you fighting the battle.
No, that's a great example. I mean, that's awesome that just happened yesterday too. Because I mean, it is. It's not that once we have courage, it's like it's there. We're stuck with it. You know, it's like it's branded on our chest, and we're stuck with it forever. I mean, it'll come and go. I mean, life experiences. Again, in order to get to higher levels, you got to overcome higher, higher devils. And so, if we were to just base it off your experience when you were 5 years old, that little bit of courage, you wouldn't be the man you are today. You know, you had to continue to learn line upon line, precept upon precept of courage in order to get where you are today. I know you present on stages and you do Zooms and and other speaking assignments. I mean, obviously that probably didn't come easy at first. You know, it's like you just had to grow into it with more courage, more courage, more courage. So yeah, I mean, it does take people around us to kind of give us that little tap on the shoulder. Sometimes it gives a little shove in the back. You know, it's like, come on, you could do it. I know that's what you do with me. That's fantastic, because that's the type of personality I need. You know, I need to know how to have that confidence that somebody's there to put their hand on my shoulder. But at the same time, there's times that I need to be pushed a little bit more just to kind of kick me out of my comfort zone. I'm reading this book right now that's called Killing Comfort, and just started that book. I mean, it's I just started it yesterday, but it's all about just kind of stepping out of our comfort zones, having the courage to step out of our comfort zones, to purposely put us in positions of discomfort, because comfort is killing us. It will kill us if we just try to maintain a comfort level. It's just going to hold us down. And if we let that comfort level continue to put that hand on our head, that's just going to continually suppress us, versus allow that hand of motivation on the shoulder and that little push in the back to help us be a little more courageous, to jump out of our comfort zone, to be a little more a little discomfortable, in order to, yeah, just go with it, in order to take us to the next level. I mean, it just depends on what we really want to accomplish in life. And that's what I love about this, the subject of courage, is that it takes us, if we want to really achieve greatness and become more, we need to be more courageous. And again, it's little twists, right? It's little dial turns. It's not that we automatically have to go from no courage to ultimate courage. We just have to go line upon line, and sometimes we will fall. We'll have experiences that crush us.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of making the courage then to get back up,
Hmm.
right? Because there's going to be times that we crash and burn, and it's going to be the feel those pits of despair, right? But then the courage to get, okay, well, I did it once, I can do it again. And that's where courage really comes from. If you can do it once, you can do it again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, Matt, this has been an honor. I love the example you shared. I appreciate the time that you've been on. I want to just kind of open up. Is there anything that kind of pops in your head? I mean, by all means, you've been a great example to me throughout these 3 years of everything you're going through in life. You're still a continued example. I mean, getting going through that therapy and not worried about, getting the therapy before the house is even burning, right? Just getting the foundation. Um, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners about courage, that how courage has helped you? What examples of courage have you taken in your life? What examples of courage do you teach? Because I know you have you have a good sales force that you work with. That sales takes a lot of courage, right? Just progressing in life takes a lot of courage. So if you were to talk about the courage, what else would you kind of add to this conversation to kind of close us out?
Yeah. I would say that it's very rare. that you're going to have a situation pop up where it's going to be a decision of, should I be courageous in this or should I not? It doesn't happen that way. Uh, the way it happens is as like a tiny little poke, and then you're like, oh, somebody poked me, okay, and then it pokes you again. That second time, whether you decide to listen to it or not, that determines whether you're using courage. And I'm going to give you an example. The book you're reading, Killing Comfort. I saw it on your story yesterday, and in my head, I thought I probably need that, but good for him. Literally what I thought, because I saw, from what I remember, the book was like partially off the screen, so it wasn't like full on, like, here's the cover of the book. But it was enough to where I was like, it was like orange and black and gray or something like that.
Right.
And so in my head, I'm like, oh, cool. Jared's reading a book called Killing Comfort. You had some text on the screen I read through, and in my head, I'm like, I thought that's probably something you need to read. But good for him, because I'm in the middle of reading a book on overcoming, sexual child abuse for adult men, and it's this book that I'm enthralled in and really pulling a lot from. And it's so in my head, I'm like, good for him, even though I know I need it. Cool. But then you brought it up again. You said, I'm reading this book and I just started it yesterday. In my head, I was like, second poke, got it. So I wrote it down. And what most people think of courage is, you see a car accident and somebody's injured, so you get out of your car and you go be great. No, it's not that. It's listening to those little intuition, the little reminders, the little, okay, you just had an argument with your spouse and they said XYZ is how you behave. Like, you're very controlling. Okay. And then you hear something on TV. Does your spouse call you controlling a lot? It's some weird commercial. Those are the examples. Like, okay, now you need to pay attention. Are you a controlling person, or whatever the case may be?
Sure.
But it's seeing those little pieces, which I think come from God, or however you want to explain it. But it's seeing those little nudges, pokes, whispers, whatever, and being able to recognize that is the moment of courage being offered to you, the opportunity for you to utilize what you're given in terms of courage. You're being given that opportunity then in that moment, and then you get to choose whether you utilize it or not. And so in this case with the book, I wrote it down so I can get it off Amazon so that I could read it. I'm taking that chance of like, well, crap, I'm already reading a book I really, really am challenged by, that I feel fulfilled by. I'm learning a lot. Oh, I don't need to read this book right now, but it's come up twice now in a very short amount of time where I felt a pull, like you need to be reading this right now. And so I'm going to use that as my next step. That you can call that courage, because when you don't feel like doing it, but it's what's called of you, and so you take that step, that's courage. It could be as simple as you're at a restaurant and you notice the waitress is having a crappy day. I don't know how you want to call that, but that kind of a day. And you know that this person is struggling, and you know that you could make their day better. There's your opportunity to have some courage and speak up, even though you aren't naturally comfortable, you're not an extrovert, blah, 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 whatever excuse you have. This is your opportunity. And again, it's small, it's that little pull. That's when courage is actually being asked of you or offered for you to exercise. And so I think, just if I'm teaching courage to somebody, it's like, how do you start tapping into those moments? Like, there's a reason why those little pieces are there. And if we choose to listen to them, we grow. If we don't, we get to stay the same. And I think that's how I would teach courage. It's not this huge, it's never, ever this huge, grandiose. Can I give you another example?
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually finally I found some. I'm taking notes now.
Yeah. I'll give you a great example of courage that I've experienced, that I've been called to exercise. So back in November, I went to a leadership retreat. Back in November of 2022, went to a leadership retreat and did the whole leadership thing. And one of the final exercises was to write down on a piece of wood what was the number one thing that was blocking your life. And in my head, I put the fear of risk. That was what I was fearing. I feared risk. what would happen if I XYZ, I don't know how that could turn out, blah, 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 blah. At that time, you know, I had not told anybody about my sexual abuse case for 21 years. I was not telling anybody ever, because of guilt and shame and blah, blah, blah. And so, I wrote fear of risk, but I never really knew why. I just knew that I was supposed to write fear of risk. That's what I felt when we were given the options, 16 different options. And that was the one I thought, I'm supposed to pick this. I don't know why, but I did. And then on the back of the piece of wood, you're supposed to write, what do you get after you overcome that fear or break through that fear? And I wrote some stuff that I didn't really wholeheartedly believe. Broke through that piece of wood, moved on. Okay, cool. Got a lot out of that weekend. Went back to volunteer for the teenage leadership class about 8 months later. And the kids do the same exact exercise. Anywhere from 15 to 18-year-old kids do the same thing over the weekend. They get to choose. And as a volunteer helping out with being a chaperone, that kind of thing, I was offered again to do this same exercise. So what do I pick? I don't know why, but I picked fear of risk. And on the back, I picked some stupid little reasons on why I picked fear of risk, broke my board. Okay. But after we break the board, this time, all the kids circled around the trainer. And another girl had fear of risk. And they asked, like, what did it mean to you? And she said, well, 2 years ago, my stepdad raped me and I haven't told anybody. And it's completely ruined my life. I used to be a level 10 gymnast. I used to be very outgoing. She's so quiet now. She's like this is her body. She's like, I haven't told anybody, and tears streaming. And that's when I was like, oh my God, I get it now, God. Like, I know what you're trying to get me to do. I don't want to admit it right now, but I get it. So I'm in the back of the room watching, and I break down in tears. And I'm just like, okay, this is like the second poke. Like, why did I pick fear of risk? I don't know. And it didn't matter to me then. It didn't matter to me this time. Until then, I saw her story. And I'm thinking in my head, this little girl, I think she was 17, is experiencing this like breakdown of realizing what this experience with her stepdad has done to her in just 2 years of hiding it. And here I am 21 years hiding it. I've never told a soul. So we go on a dinner break. Kids go up to the cafeteria. The other trainers do too. I take a minute and go to the bunks, to the room where we're staying. And I just sat on the bed and I prayed. And I was like, God, okay, I get what you're asking me to do. It scares the holy living hell out of me, but I'll do it. Okay, like, I get it. So that was on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Monday morning is when I called the school district and said, I need to report a sexual abuse thing, blah, blah. And then I actually was able to come clean with it. And now, like I said, there's a trial that the individual is being charged with 3 counts of, molestation and all that kind of stuff. And it's finally freed off of me, but it was the fear of risk of like, what if I speak up about this? What are people going to think about me? What are people going to say? How are people going to perceive me? I'm a leader in my business. I have a social media following. I have all these things, yet I was so afraid of risking the truth. Yet when I say courage, it's those moments. It's that I sat there and I recognized that little girl was me. Had I been 19 years earlier, that was me. And I never had the courage in those moments to ever speak up. And I had plenty of opportunity. I just kept it to myself out of shame and guilt and not being tapped into God. And I did not believe in God at that point anymore. And I pulled away from God big time after that had happened when I was 13, 14. And so it's those little moments of like, they're reminders, they're little spotlights on the parts of you that need to get fixed. And if that spotlight's put on you multiple times, or put on that trait or that behavior, or that you have anger issues, okay, you have anger issues, okay, well then do something about it, because it needs the courage, and God's telling you this is where you need courage. I'm giving you an opportunity to flex that courage, go after it. Or you have an addiction, or you have this, or you have that, or whatever. That's how I would teach courage. It's paying attention to those little pokes. So yeah, anyway, that's my final wrap up.
No, that's powerful. I mean, I wrote down as like, dude, I'm gonna do a little hashtag follow the nudges. Hashtag follow the nudges, right? It's like, you're gonna be poked and prodded. If it's really significant in your life, it's gonna be brought up, right? It's gonna be manifested multiple times. And that's when I think the greatest lesson you're teaching us right now is we have to see. We have to train our minds to see the nudges, to see the hands that are coming on our shoulders, to feel the pushes behind our back, to feel the support, to see the examples all around us that are having these courageous moments. But just what you say, the fear of risk. I mean, what are you really losing? You mentioned it earlier. You're losing your ego.
Mhm.
I mean, if you look for these little nudges, you look for these little examples, just let go of the ego. Okay, we can blind ourselves with these egos so much that we can ignore these nudges and we hold ourselves back. I mean, fear it just binds us and keeps us from becoming more. And that's what this podcast is all about: is becoming more, becoming the stewards in which we were put on this earth to become, be the examples in which we've been placed in our different environments all across the world with our circle of influence, our circle of friends, but just becoming more, being courageous, not having the fear of risk, but being courageous, having the courage to step up and just to do a little bit more every single day. Matthew, I love you to pieces, brother. I am so glad that you were on here for sure. Um, and this topic I knew was just perfect for it, and you nailed it right on the money. So I'm grateful for you and sharing your experiences and your wisdom. I'm sure our listeners are feeling the exact same way. There was just so much that were there. So I got my little sticky note. Hopefully people got more nuggets than I did on written down, so that we can reflect on this and really take this to heart and really follow those prompts that we're given. Follow those nuggets or those nudges, those little yanks every day. So Matthew, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good. See you, everyone.
The end.
Stop recording.